Sunday, the 10th day of August. Thank you so much for always keeping it TV47. My name is Linda Alela, and it is time for Morning Cafe, where we take a look at the day's story, the day's events, what you expect. We expound more on important topics that revolve around important issues that surround you. And importantly, we take you through the newspapers. In short, we update you. We keep you posted on what is happening in the world of news. And equally, we inform you and entertain you, and also we teach you some nitty-gritty things that are of importance. Today will be all about nutrition. Later on in the broadcast, that is on the lifestyle segment, and we take a look at food allergies. I'm sure you can resonate with this, or you can relate to what it is that I'm talking about when it comes to food allergies. So all the questions that you ever had or ever wanted about an allergy that you have, maybe when you ate eggs, you tend to get some allergies. I mean, we'll be having a specialist, a nutritionist, who's going to tell us what could be the remedies to that and what could be the reasons why you're having an allergy. And maybe today you get to have a solution. But before we get to that, we always take a look at what it is that my team has prepared in terms of news, and we expound some more on what has been captured on the newspaper stories. We also update you on what is happening on the roads. Just in case you're stepping out, you need not to worry, because we have our eyes down on the roads to ensure that you're not caught up in traffic. So welcome on board. As always, it's a pleasure to have you joining me as we look forward to a great week ahead. Karibu sana. Important that you be part of this conversation. Remember, I am nothing without you. So if you're part of this conversation, then it helps me know what it is that you want to know, helps me know who it is that I should bring on board so they can enlighten you. Hashtag Morning Cafe at Linda_Alela, TV47 at, of course, TV47KE. That is, you can as well hit our Facebook page, TV47. That is YouTube, TV47. Be part of this conversation. Be part of this program all the way to 9 a.m. this morning. So let's start off with what it is that my team has in store. And the government insists that schools will reopen in January next year, despite calls from candidates to be allowed to go back to classes. Now, meanwhile, the Ministry of Education is calling on parents in private schools to discuss with the school owners on how to pay part of their annual school fees to enable the schools to stay afloat. Let's take a look.
The Education Cabinet Secretary says the decision to reopen school was made in consultation with various stakeholders in order to curb the spread of COVID-19. He, however, says that the date might be revised based on the prevailing circumstances. He has cautioned against the push for the reopening of schools, urging parents to prioritize the health and safety of their children.
I said we shall open schools in January. And if you look at my previous statement, we have said, should conditions change according to advice from health, then something else may happen. But nevertheless, the government is in the process of inspecting all schools and ensuring that those schools are capable of complying with the COVID-19 regulations. The question you should be asking yourself is, do you want a dead child or a live child?
The CS advised parents whose children were enrolled in private schools to negotiate with the school owners to part their annual school fee to enable the schools to stay afloat. The government is in the meantime considering availing 7 billion Kenya shillings as loans to qualified private school owners. This is readiness for the crisis faced by almost 11,000 private schools currently at risk of closure.
Those people who took their children to private schools, because the said private schools are providing a service through online service, negotiate with them and ensure that you pay a proportion of the school fees so that what you are talking about does not happen. The government is further considering availing 7 billion shillings in terms of concessionary loans for those who qualify for it to private school owners. The government of His Excellency Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta is ready and willing to ensure that any child who decides to opt from private schools to public schools is taken like yesterday. So this thinking that children will leave private schools and have nowhere to go, that again is a figment of somebody's imagination.
The government says that public schools will accommodate private school students whose schools will be closed. Immaculate Uma, TV 47, Nairobi.
And away from that story, Senate is yet to get a deal on the disputed revenue sharing formula ahead of a sitting on Tuesday. A meeting organized by Majority Whip Irungu Kangata yesterday did not materialize after senators opposed to the third generation formula snubbed the meeting.
As the deadlock on the proposed sharing formula continues to divide senators within the ruling Jubilee Party, intense lobbying is ongoing. Majority Whip Irungu Kangata had on Sunday organized an informal meeting to whip members. The meeting was, however, postponed after senators from the team opposing the disputed third-generation formula snubbed the meeting.
We thought of bringing together senators because this stalemate seems to have created a rift amongst senators, which is not good. We want to continue as friends. We want to continue as brothers and sisters post this stalemate. Senate is a small house that has very few members, unlike the National Assembly. National Assembly has almost 400 members, but Senate we have 67 members. So we thought of having this Mbuzi to continue that friendship, creating bonds beyond the official business that we transact at the Senate.
Kangata, however, optimistic of another meeting to whip members. At least 4 proposals are said to be on the table ahead of Tuesday's sitting.
We have negotiations which are ongoing behind the scene. There was a view that if we have this Mbuzi, there is a possibility that we torpedo those negotiations. We are almost coming up with a settlement in a time from now, and therefore we thought of deciding we call off the Mbuzi. Once we are done with the business, we'll always come back for the Mbuzi.
A mediation committee that was supposed to be formed did not materialize after a dispute emerged on the leadership of the committee. A section of senators are said to have opposed Senate Deputy Speaker Professor Margaret Kamal to chair the committee that was to retreat on Thursday.
A vote will have to be taken on amendments that are being brought so that we are able to now, they are able to discuss the report and move forward, because we cannot continue procrastinating this problem. Because remember, they have adjourned several times, and we can't just keep the country, in abeyance and, the country watching and well. Because if they're not agreeing, then I don't see them agreeing at any time.
Senate will be meeting for the 8th time on Tuesday in an attempt to unlock the deadlock that has rendered counties broke.
All right, well, and away from that, we'll be discussing that conversation later on the broadcast as we get to hear what the panelists will have to say in regards to the same and what it is that we expect to come tomorrow. But going all the way to Kiambu, tensions are high in Ndeia, Kiambu County, following attacks by cattle rustlers from Kajiado County. A meeting that was to be led by Kiambu Governor James Nyoro and high-ranked security officers from Kiambu ended prematurely after they were chased away by armed youth, as Zainab Mohammed tells us.
Tension is still high in Gatune area, Ndeia village, Kiambu, Kajiado border, following attacks by cattle rustlers who have made away with more than 100 livestock in the area. The conflict has seen locals from either sides on a revenge mission for the last few weeks.
Watu wanakufa Ndeia, ng'ombe mamia na mbuzi mamia zinaibiwa kila siku, kila usiku. Watu hata wengine wameanza kuhama manyumba kwao kwa sababu hawajui kile kinaweza tendeka.
Kiambu Governor James Nyoro and a host of high-ranked security officers in Kiambu County were on Sunday attacked by angry residents, forcing them to prematurely end a peace-building meeting.
I think after that we can disperse. I will have also them dispersed. Alafu we will communicate later the venue of our Tuesday meeting. Okay? Thank you.
Even the media falling victim as they were not allowed to film the incident.
County Commissioner amechapwa, County Commander amechapwa, mkuu wa ujasusi wa Kiambu amechapwa, na pia governor wetu amechapwa.
3 people have so far died in the conflict, which has left 15 others injured.
Kuna mtu ambaye amechomwa mshare katika mgongo. Kuna mtu mwingine apigwa rungu ya kichwa.
The residents have issued a 15-day ultimatum for an action to be taken, with Kiambu and Kajiado governors promising to come up with a long-lasting solution. For TV47, I'm Zainab Mohammed.
Now, Makueni County is top on the list of the happiest counties in Kenya, according to a poll released by Infotrack. City dwellers in Nairobi, Kisumu and Mombasa are not happy.
In a report released by Infotrack organization, Makueni County residents are the happiest at 64.4%, followed closely with West Pokot County. According to the poll, Makueni leads in the country happiness index at 64.4%, followed by West Pokot with 62.4%, Machakos 62.1%, and Bomet at 61.8%. Kwale County completes the top 5 list of the happiest counties at 61.3%. Making the top 10 list is Elgeyo Marakwet, Marsabit, Uasin Gishu, Kericho and Mandera. The 3 cities didn't fare well, with Kisumu taking position 25, Mombasa 44 and Nairobi at number 45 out of the 47 counties. The happiness of these counties have majorly been contributed by the onset of devolution.
You find that in places like Makueni and Machakos, where previously the issue of food security was a problem, we now see that, with the onset and the strengthening of devolution, that these are areas that, are becoming self-sufficient in terms of their food production.
According to the research, Nyandarua County has the highest number of the unhappy residents. Mombasa, Nairobi, Trans Nzoia and Taita Taveta counties are bottom 4, whose happiness index is low at 52.6%, 52.5%, 52% and 48.9% respectively. Lack of public participation in the counties and unhealthy politicking was attributed to low happiness index in these counties.
Attributed to the fact that, one, the social and economic pressures in these places is such that life tends to be very hard. Also in terms of just the physical environment, the traffic, the congestion, the noise, all these things probably serve as a way serve to undermine happiness in these places.
The survey comes just a few months after the United Nations ranked Kenya among the happiest countries in Africa.
And many health projects in Embu counties have stalled for a while now, forcing many locals to walk for kilometers to seek medical services. This despite funds allocation in every financial year. Wige William reports from Embu County.
After the promulgation of the new constitution in 2010, it was the hope of many Kenyans that development will reach their grassroots level. In Embu County, we focus on the devolved health function to see to it if that is the case. A spot check in several dispensaries within Embu County, many projects are yet to be completed even after huge budgets were allocated and money pumped into the project. Year after year, the projects have been allocated money, but the rest of Embu County are yet to benefit from the project. Embu County was allocated 4.2 million Kenya shillings in 2015-2016 financial year and 4.6 million Kenya shillings 2016-2017 financial year. In the year 2018-2019 financial year, more than 229 million Kenya shillings was allocated to development, among them health services. Despite the huge allocations, women in Makema Bondoni in Mbeere South are finding it difficult to access maternity services, with an incomplete maternity wing in Bondoni dispensary, which was allocated around 3 million Kenya shillings in the year 2018-2019.
Wakati tunafuka na hiyo mboti, tunazadia huko ndani kwa sababu mafuta inaishia hapo katikati na mtu hana mafuta.
In Manyata constituency at Kibugu dispensary, with an allocation of 730,000 Kenya shillings in financial year 2018-2019, the hospital kitchen is yet to be completed.
Kwetu tuko na wards zenye zilijengwa, na unakuta kama tuna ward hapa Kibugu Ward Center, tulikuwa na maternity wing, tuko na male ward, na hizo facilities zote unakuta haziwezekani kutumiwa.
A visit to Mbirore, Embu North, members of the public were a little agitated, having no health facility within area forcing them to make long trips to access health services, with allegations that the county government had claimed to have constructed a dispensary in the area.
Hivyo sisi tunashangaa sana na tunauliza viongozi wetu, kwa nini hospitali iwe imejengwa na hakuna hata moja tunaona hapa?
Mwaka wa 2017, 2017-2018, huu mradi bado ulipewa shilingi zingine milioni 2. Sasa swali ambalo tunalo kali zaidi ni, je, huu mradi kwa sasa umegharimu serikali ya Embu County milioni 4 ama bado?
With the stalling of these projects, members of the public are finding it difficult to access vital health services within the county. Mwege William for TV47 in Embu.
Thanks, Mwige. Now, with over 500,000 job losses experienced in Kenya due to COVID-19 and the growing uncertainty in the Kenyan job market, most graduates who were seeking for white-collar jobs have resorted to self-employment. Our reporter Calvin Chitu met a 26-year-old School of Law graduate from Kabarak University who was inspired by her peers and attracted local leadership after opening a grocery shop within Eldoret town.
With only a few of her savings, Catherine Wamboi began this grocery shop, currently delivering fresh produce to her customers.
When I cleared campus, I withdrew the money. And then I did some business when I was in high school. I used to do some tumba. I had a baby shop in Nakuru. So with all those savings, I started all this one.
This has been inspired by the persistent call by the health ministry officials asking Kenyans to avoid crowded places, especially at the markets.
With this outbreak of coronavirus, I thought it's wise to decongest people, so I started getting suppliers from the market to this place and from farmers to this place.
Wamboi has employed 4 fellow youth, 2 of whom are graduates. She has challenged the youth, many of whom are under the National Hygiene Program, to save their little proceeds as capital to start up small businesses.
I want to encourage the youth. Okay, it's good to have education, yes, I have my own degree, but it's also good to have other means, because sometimes employment is difficult. So I like to encourage those youths who are there at home, just start small with whatever you have.
County leadership, led by Deputy Governor Daniel Chemno, hailed the initiative and promised that the county government will provide loans to help the youth.
We want to make this town to be the history of future billionaires. Start small, grow big. And we want you to mentor other young people. There are many young people who are looking for jobs, but they forget that they can become job creators.
Elgeyo Marakwet Governor Alex Tolgos has urged the youth who are now benefiting through Kazi Mtaani initiative to engage in meaningful businesses.
And we want to ask our youth that having the papers, yes, it's good that you have your papers, and starting an investment like this will not stop you from utilizing the degree that you have. Because I'm sure now Wamboi, if she gets another opportunity to practice law, this business will continue, and the youth who have been employed will continue to earn from this investment. Especially now that the government has started the Kazi Mtaani initiative, let the youth save that small amount.
Calvin Chitwa, TV47, Uasin Gishu County.
All right, and welcome back. Now that aside, on matters news, it's time that we cross over to the newspapers and we take a look at what has been captured, as of course they expound some more on what you expect throughout the week or in the course of the day, as to matters politics, as to matters COVID-19 war, and even on matters education. And joining me this morning is Edwin Kigoli, who's a youth leader, to expound some more on the same. Edwin, good morning.
Good morning.
You well?
Yes.
Thank you so much for finding time. All right, now let's go straight to the newspapers, what it is that we have. The People Daily, the Standard newspaper, and the Daily Nation. And to kick us off is First of all, before we get to the people, okay, well, let's start with the People's Daily. And this is the front page of the People's Daily. From Canaan to Jerusalem, Raila leaves old pals gazing. Captured on page 6. This is according to the politics of the weekend. I know so much played out in matters politics. Lots of speculations coming on board into what direction respective leaders are going to take. Right Honorable Raila Odinga being one of them. Now ODM Supremo has forged new alliances and is in the process, of course, made new friends, much to the chagrin of his former confidants who no longer enjoy his company. And we all know what this means. As you can see, the picture clearly explains what it is that you expect. And the utterances over the weekend from the likes of Murathe and being backed by what Atwoli said, or being backed by Atwoli, a clear indication that, we are set to get so much changes and so much realignments on matters politics. So I'm sure you must have seen this, or you have followed the events. And it looks like, yes, the ODM crew is left aside. Maybe Baba again has gone out fishing to ensure that he brings food to his children. Kigoli.
Well, it's an interesting turn of events, and Raila Odinga deserves to be president of this country, but again, the people of Kenya will decide when that time comes. Mm-hmm. And we cannot take lightly what Honorable Murathe said, and it has also been swiftly echoed by Court Secretary General Francis Atwoli. But again, in Kenya, you see, every day counts in politics, and we still have quite a longer time to the due date. So ours will be to watch and see how things will be turning. And, in the course of your journey, you get new friends, new allies, depending on the course of action that is presenting itself. So perhaps this friend might be useful today, and tomorrow there might be a change of focus or shift. So it is natural, it is normal to change friends here and there, but again, it is always cardinal and paramount to retain those old folks, because you might just not know when exactly you will need them again. So even if somebody clearly outlives their usefulness to you, you have to be careful that at some point again you might need them.
All right, that story expounded on page 6, and we will be forming the basis of our discussion this morning as we take a look at the politics of the weekend later on the current affairs segment. And also, that very story would hugely and highly inform what will be the fate of the Senate revenue stalemate as it stands right now. That is revenue sharing stalemate at the levels of the county. And this is the biggest story that has been captured right here, expounded on page 2. Hidden hand in revenue stalemate. Probably some of them smell conspiracy, as Speaker Kenneth Lusaka and Majority Leader Samuel Poghisio accused Elgeyo Marakwet Senator Kipchumba Murkomen of doing the bidding of other parties. And in what Kipchumba Murkomen said on Friday, they are going to deliberate on the bills that have been presented by 2 senators, Sakaja being one of them, and expounding some more further to see to it that they are able to get a solution to this. So we eagerly wait to see what will play out tomorrow, or what will pan out tomorrow. But as it is, there is the hand of politics hugely, and that's why I said the likes of Right Honorable Raila Odinga are instrumental in terms of determining what will be the direction of this conversation come tomorrow. Kigoli, do you expect us again to have the same scenario that played out last week, or this time around, now that we've seen the likes of Senator Kipchumba Murkomen actively being involved and, coming out with, ways of determining this? Are there likelihoods that we're going to get answers of finally?
Well, it's also dependent on a number of factors. Yeah. And number one, passing the new formula means some counties are going to lose money. Maybe what we needed to make definitive and predictable is the fact that when a new formula comes into place, it doesn't necessarily replace everything that was in existence, so that we do not get ourselves to where we are right now. Because when you introduce any subject of somebody losing anything, people will always tend to coil away and resist. And it is not still going to be easy as long as the debate of some counties losing money is still on the table. And all these amendments that are coming, unless they address that issue of losing money, then we are likely to see another adjournment, or either if the matter is pushed to a vote, then the formula might be defeated, or it can go either way, depending on how senators will have been lobbied. Because many of them are fearing backlash, from their home counties, that when you are in Senate, such a formula was passed, and now we have lost money. Because me, given somebody from Vihiga, I really do not appreciate that my county is going to lose quite a number of money, yet already it is struggling. That means it's going to even struggle more. So perhaps we needed to retain whatever counties are getting at this particular point in time, and then maybe topped up by the difference in population, so that now, let's say a county like Nairobi, if it's the most populous, then it gets over and above what it has been getting. That way, we'll be making good progress. So as and when that issue is particularly addressed, we are going to see this push and pull, back and forth, adjournment, another 8th sitting, 9th sitting, until that issue is resolved. So we need to focus effort on resolving that issue of this county is not going to lose money. Now that needs to be anchored in that formula or in the law, so that it is not an understanding. Because we know in this country how MOUs and understandings have been violated in the long run. So maybe senators do not want to take chances with that.
Okay, we eagerly wait to see what will happen in the same, and equally forms the basis of our discussion this morning. Still on the front page of the People Daily, there is a report or a survey that was conducted by Infotrack, captured on page 6 extensively on the People Daily, that speaks of the counties and how their governors have performed and how much they are happy or they are not happy. So Makueni, Pokot are the happiest counties according to this new survey. Makueni County ranking at 64.4%, and West Pokot County ranking at 62.4% in terms of performance, now followed by Machakos, which is at 62.1%, and Bomet County, Hilary Bachok, 61.8%. That's an interesting one right here, looking at the fact that Hilary just got into power the other day, right after the loss or the demise of the former governor, that is Laboso. May her soul rest in peace. Do you suppose that this is genuine in terms of course, what has been conducted, what has been looked at, and whether indeed these people are happy? And what would you rate your own respective county?
Well, I've not gone through the papers deeply to understand why the people are happy, but let me feel happy that they are happy. Because right now we need happiness amid the tough times that we are in as a country. And it's encouraging to note that, Machakos, Bomet and others are happy. And I was just coming from Vihiga, and those people are not very, very happy because they say they're going to lose a lot of money and they don't want to lose money. And they're saying they are also appreciating the fact that, there is some mining that is supposed to be initiated, and they are hopeful that government will live up to its promise. So they are moderate. So, yeah, they are moderate.
All right. Well, of course, that is for the people to tell us whether indeed it's true or not. And of course, if it is so, we know very well that for the longest of time, Makueni governor has been, celebrated based on what it is that he has done. And at some point in time, governor is going to his county to benchmark and to understand what it is that he is doing different. Indeed, that is the kind of leadership that the people are looking forward to, leadership of transformation. But that aside, we cross over to the Daily Nation. On the front page of the Daily Nation, a couple of crucial stories that have been captured, including this one of IEBC making over crisis, pending bills, limping IEBC just 2 years to 2022 polls, captured extensively on page 6. Leaving us wonder whether indeed this conversation of some bit of changes that are needed within the IEBC, where did it end? And what are the guarantees that IEBC has the muscle and capability to take us through the next election, and if not an election, then probably, well, a referendum, which is more or less, yes, an election. Do you suppose that it is well conformed, well orchestrated as it stands right now? Are the leaders hypocritical in the fact that they're not addressing the discrepancies or the issues or the uncertainties that are within the IEBC?
Well, particularly I'm concerned about the way the IEBC has been handled ever, coming from 2017 general elections. We've seen, unprocedural resignations, and then the body has been left with, very, very few commissioners. So that obviously impacts heavily on the delivery of their mandate. But again, we need to be honest with ourselves. We need to be honest and live up to the spirit and letter of the Constitution of Kenya. So this IEBC needs to be constituted as soon as possible, because we are looking at, just about 2 years to the general election again, and maybe it is time again we refocused attention on reconstituting the body so that it is fair and the people who get these positions are by merit. And we've had arguments about, political parties proposing commissioners into, to fill the positions. The question is, why do we need to do that? Yet the law is very definitive on what ought to be done. So we need to be very, very honest and give IEBC the independence that is due for them. And this is one of the commissions that politicians like to interfere with, because it is so important to them that it determines who gets to be elected. So they would want to control it to the last man, which perhaps in the modern day is not really a good thing to do. We should let people decide who they want to elect, because when we interfere with the operations of the IEBC, when we underfund the IEBC, when we get commissioners who are already compromised to get into that body, it will always bring chaos, as we have seen in the past. So it is time we let commissions function independently. Let IEBC decide on its own. But again, with the crop of politicians we have, it's easier said than done. So maybe within the spirit of handshake and what Baba has been through, he can share with President Kenyatta now that he has his favor, to make sure that the commissioners getting there are the best qualified Kenyans, because we have the best, and IEBC is given its space to deliver.
Okay, well, that aside, there's a report right here, even as we continue to have a trajectory in the numbers of COVID-19 that we're getting. But, yesterday for the first time, we registered the highest number of recoveries. But there's an interesting report right here that doctors are falsifying the cause of death for different people to avoid corona burials, as captured on page 8. Has it gotten us to such a point? Don't the doctors understand the implications of this? If someone has passed on because of coronavirus, isn't it just fair that the truth is told, that they are accorded the kind of burial that is accorded right now? After all, even in the normal burials, there's nothing as different as such in comparison to the COVID-19 burials, because anyway, so much has changed in this phase.
Well, when you look at what is happening, we look at, the media, the way people who are suspected to have coronavirus are buried, and then you hear what people are testifying about, how the burial was conducted and everything. It somehow stigmatizes. It somehow, takes away that dignity in a family. You see people coming to dig a very shallow grave, they put you there, and the family is left traumatized, and like they feel our loved one should have been given a decent burial, but what are you guys doing? So it is also causing stigma, and maybe that's something the Ministry of Health or the officials who are tasked to ensure the burial of these bodies are adhering to. You remember even Honorable Tim Wanyonyi complained about how the officials rushed in the burial of, his kin. So it's something that we also need to look at, because how we handle this COVID-19, right from contracting the virus to, the worst of somebody succumbing to it, we need to give families, the dignity they deserve. Let us respect. We are Africans. We respect, our dead people. So we need to also accord them respect. Let there be a decent burial, so that people don't feel, stigmatized because of corona. The thought is that when you get corona, you get something that is very, very bad, something worth running away from. So you feel isolated, you feel left out, and you feel, just very stigmatized, which is really not good case.
Okay, well, and still on the very same, the front page, State House tops talks on revenue. I think we've touched on that and what to expect. 40 lawmakers drawn from competing sides that agreed to convene in a hotel that is in Kiambu to resolve the impasse over the sharing of county crush. But a powerful government official called Majority Whip Irungu Kang'ata scattered the meeting, leaving him clenching at straws with lots of goat meat and no eaters. Captured on page 4. Like I said, we're going to extensively expound on the same. And still in the same one, thousands of county staff yet to get July-June salaries, which is pretty much unfortunate. Council of Governors Chair Wycliffe Oparanya right there, as numbers are given, around 5,000 number of county workers in Nandi who are eagerly waiting for their delayed pay checks, and I think this cuts across the 47 counties. Does it speak of a negative, move on matters devolution, and what are the likelihoods that we're going to change tax to ensure that devolution is a success?
It comes down to the spirit that is put in the success and achievement of devolution, because it is such an important pillar in our Kenyan constitution at the moment. And what we needed to do, or what we ought to do, is to make sure that county governments function well. Let there be never an excuse that we didn't perform because we were underfunded or our funding was delayed for various reasons. Let us support our county governments, because they are still young, they're still growing, they're still establishing, so they need maximum support from the national government. And cooperation of county governments and national governments is well anchored in the constitution. So we need to urge the National Treasury to be disbursing county government funds well in good time, so that they have time to plan and execute the mandate that the people who elected them demand of them. Because if we do not fund county governments, then we are setting them on that edge of collapse, which is not good. Because when we set an atmosphere of collapse, then we are defeating the very purpose of the Kenyan constitution. Then the question is, why did we pass the constitution in the first place? Or why did we go for devolution, yet we knew very well that there still wasn't enough spirit and goodwill to support devolution? Because when you look at maybe, and also listen to what governors are saying, they say they receive funds very late, that they can't even do anything with it. And spending public money is not like any other thing. It is a really lengthy and hectic process, so you need enough time. So our urge is to President Kenyatta, because the buck stops with him, that he needs to set that precedent of making the National Treasury disburse funds well in advance, so that if a governor doesn't perform, then it is squarely on them. But right now, you hear governors come out say, we have not received funds, and now you see now what the newspapers are reporting, that people are yet to receive 3 months salaries on. You see, you ask even, how are they surviving in these hard times, because they have families to take care of, they have bills to pay, and they need to feel appreciated for the work they are rendering in the county government that they are based in. So it is an issue of now not even just goodwill, but a matter of law and procedure.
Taking its shape. All right, well, that aside, we get to see how this will be addressed, or what will be the reactions right after that. And just to wind up, on the front page of the Daily Nation, KANU prepares for presidential election. That is 2 weeks after announcing that party leader Gideon Moi would be on the ballot. KANU has launched its presidential mobilization strategy in preparation for the 2022 election, and Natural Foods will healing powers. We're talking about the lemons and ginger and the honeys that are of importance, especially this time of COVID-19. And crossing over to the Standard newspaper, that is the front page right here. Ruto fights to pay for Western and land. Deputy President William Ruto asks court to terminate case by Kenya Civil Aviation Authority seeking to recover the land on which Western Hotel is built. The National Land Commission ruled last year that the land is public and hotel owners should compensate the agency for the loss. Captured on page 6 of the Standard newspaper. I don't think we need to talk much about that. I think it's a case that is still ongoing. We can only wait to see whether the DP will be successful in his bid. But that aside, also, Murathe splits Jubilee with Raila 2022 call. I know we've talked about this and we'll still talk about it. But it's an interesting one. Why is it then that it's bringing a split? Why is it then that it's bringing confusion within ODM and also within Jubilee Party?
In fact, another question is, why is it appearing that the Jubilee is split over Murathe's call? Again, because Raila Odinga came in to shake hands with President Uhuru Kenyatta because it was to stabilize the country, to make sure the president delivers on his agenda. Yeah. And constitutionally, President Kenyatta will be vacating office come 2022. So it is always expected that the search for a successor is initiated. You realize when President Obama left office, President Trump came in and him being a Republican started repealing and replacing the laws and the progress he had realized. So sometimes presidents want their favored successors so that their legacy is upheld. But when you get somebody who is a direct rival and critic, sometimes they come to water down what you did, try to paint you bad. But again, we understand how things work in this country, and it is until we get there and it is confirmed and we see it. But right now we can only talk because Murathe can speak, and then later on leaders say those were his personal opinions, and then what do you do? So again, as a candidate, one has to do what they are supposed to do. They have to fulfill, whatever it is that they need to do, because again, it comes down to what are you doing to make sure that you win this election? What is it that who are you going to talk to? What steps are you taking? You see what Gideon Moi is doing, though he has an uphill task in Rift Valley, those people. Yeah, he has really an uphill task of, dislodging Deputy President from Rift Valley is not a walk in the park. It's not easy.
Right.
Yeah, DP is firmly in Rift Valley. So Gideon has some work to do. But again, we'll be looking at this situation on a day-to-day basis and see how developments are going on. Because you remember when Senator Irungu Kangata said that you support the formula, we are in BBI. You reject the formula, we are out of BBI. You see, such statements would paint a picture that there could come a time when people are like, give and take. You give me this, I give you that. If you don't give me this, my support is withdrawn. So that tells that also BBI is not very, very firm. It is just collapse away from the way politicians should be arranged and realignments and all that, and maybe the decisions taken on national matters as revenue formula.
All right, well, we wait to see what happens, and even as we take a look later on the politics of the weekend, taking a look at what played out in the Mulembe Nation, and in an executive order presented on a Friday by President Uhuru Kenyatta, the executive order, of course, has reduced the grip on Macharia's hold and establishment of new body sees. One of the country's most powerful CSs remain with Shell on his domain. Yes, one would call him a super, or he was a super cabinet secretary, controlling a huge chunk of the national budget, and his vice-like grip on the key infrastructure projects propelled him to be one of the most powerful men in Uhuru's government. However, in Friday's presidential executive order, he stripped him bare after taking powerful roles from the Ministry of Transport, Infrastructure and Housing, subsequently removing control of billions of shillings allocated to it. What does it speak? And knowing very well that this time around, if there's anything that is key to development, anything that is key to progress, then it ought to be this Ministry of Transport, because of the aspect of infrastructure helps hugely on matters money. What way forward? And with these numerous executive orders, or maybe executive orders by President Uhuru Kenyatta, orders that have been disputed for the longest of time. Remember that one of changing the name of the presidency, or changing the powers of the presidency, and in a way rooting out the DP from it. And also something that got the president rubbing the wrong way, or rubbing with the judiciary the wrong way, was that very also executive order that in a way sort of got the judiciary to a point whereby they were considered not to be an arm of government, that felt so bad, and something that was revoked by the courts just the other day.
Well, right now, every decision President Kenyatta is making is geared towards the success of the Big Four agenda. Mm-hmm. And you look at the agenda the president, embarked to fulfill: housing, healthcare, food security. You look at these, and manufacturing, not to forget. You look at them, and right now every decision made is to make sure that President Kenyatta, when he leaves office, he's going home with something. And I would say this, infrastructure, or the docket that CS Macharia is holding, is very, very key and critical. Mm-hmm. And pundits have argued that maybe infrastructure investments lately have not been, weighed against value for money, or carefully analyzed against the prevailing circumstances. Mm-hmm. Because you just allow me a little latitude, and if we go to a docket like education, yep. Right now schools are struggling with infrastructure. Claims are there that students cannot be recalled back to school because schools won't meet social distancing because of infrastructure. What we need to do right now is to summon quantum economics, so that now we put together effort and make decisions that will improve the infrastructure. When we talk about ICT in schools, the first question that comes to mind is, are schools prepared for ICT integration? Are students, having that capacity to benefit from these infrastructural projects? What President had announced after the unsuccessful last laptop for Standard 1 pupils, it was to build computer laboratories in schools, which could have really worked perfectly well. And right now, maybe we could be looking at, can we do online learning in public institutions? It could have been very possible. But again, you come to the issue of roads, and must say that President Kenyatta has done quite a number of kilometers, and I think we also must give him accolades for that. Yeah, though many people say, look at the cost of the cost that has been used to construct these roads. But again, the road is there, and then the cost of constructing a kilometer during or in the past 10 years is not the same as now. Things keep changing, and the costs keep going high. That's why, when you continue maintaining your employee under the same salary for years and years on, and then you're hurting them, because on a daily basis, prices keep going up. So we need to keep going high in terms of cost. So you might say President Kenyatta has spent more money on constructing a kilometer of road, but again, we look at it, what was the cost then and what is the cost now? So, and then if President feels Macharia should be helped through an agency that is, that has advanced specializations in the same docket, then the president is rightly to do that, because in the end, we will not look at Macharia, we will look at President Kenyatta. So whatever decision the president makes, we support him fully, and let us keep asking ourselves, what is it that we can do for our country than just asking the country to do everything for us.
All right, Kigoli, let's do it a little bit different today and also take a look at what is on the international scene before we get to round up. And I think I'll pick some of the key stories that are, have been making headlines, including the protests that have been happening or going on in Lebanon, courtesy of Reuters, and Beirut police fire tear gas as protesters regroup and 2 ministers quit. Lebanese police fired tear gas to try to disperse rock-throwing protesters blocking a road near Parliament in Beirut on Sunday in a second day of anti-government demonstrations triggered by last week's devastating explosions. They're not yet even to that point where they've healed. So much is happening. I know this caught the world with so much shock. That was very much unfortunate. And the people of Lebanon sort of feel like, the government is lagging behind in addressing the issues as it stands right now. I mean, demonstrations and demonstrations across. And even as demonstrations continue, we have literally forgotten the need to be careful at this point of COVID-19.
Yeah, this is quite an issue in Beirut, and we feel for the families that have been affected. And people's power, is always powerful. So the people of Beirut are demanding for something, and I know they will get it. And you see, taking responsibility is very important. And you see, 2 ministers have quit their jobs because maybe they feel we need to give way for somebody else to take over now with the development. And maybe the government should listen into what the people are demanding and address their concerns, because when you do not address the concerns the people are raising, then it brings a problem. And people going to streets right now with the threat of coronavirus, you want to imagine if just 10 people were positive in that crowd, how many people would go home testing positive again? So it is a tricky balance. So government need to act swiftly and not use excessive force against its own citizens, but address the concerns and questions the people are raising. That way, they'll be making right steps in the right direction.
And speaking of COVID-19, the numbers in the U.S. have hit more than 5 million as it stands today. And yesterday, the United States offered, a travel advisory to his citizens, or to her citizens, in regards to, the cases in East Africa, saying that, these are hotspots. These are dangerous zones, so you should not travel to East Africa. What do you suppose could have informed this? Is it the move that Tanzania decided to take, or really, as it stands, Kenya and the other East African countries are as dangerous as the U.S. would want to term it? And what does it speak about the fact that we opened our international flights just the other day?
You see, even U.S. is not safe to travel to right now.
Yeah.
So I do not get the reasoning behind issuing a travel advisory yet. No place right now one can say is safe, including the United States.
Yeah.
So Tanzanians, when they declared COVID-19 free, when it was even before due, it is spoiling for East Africa, because you cannot separate Tanzania from Kenya, Uganda. We are almost one thing. So if Tanzania makes a mistake, then the US would interpret Tanzania borders Kenya. So it is easier for people from Tanzania to slip in through the border of Kenya.
Yeah.
And that way they'll be risking putting the people from Kenya at stake and at risk. But again, I do not really feel and think advisories are the best way to go right now, because you want to look at the crisis, this medical crisis that has become economic crisis. So balancing these requires countries to work together. No country is safe. So even us would fear going to US given the cases that are being reported. But again, we must laud President Trump for one thing. You see, not many countries have been sincere and honest about the infections that are happening in their own countries. the US are testing massively, and when you test as many people, you get to realize more numbers. And some countries have been, hiding testing capacities, under-reporting cases. That way, they look like they do not have as many cases as compared to US. But US, it's almost difficult to hide anything. Everybody is on the lookout. So we must laud President Trump one way or the other for leading a testing campaign that has unearthed these high number of people. But again, testing is one thing, and then responding to it is another. When you just discover, and then the next thing is, what measures now are we putting in place as government to make sure that we contain the virus, and then we protect the senior citizens, veterans, those with the pre-existing conditions. But again, when infections go high, it is not the problem of government. It is not a making of government. Sometimes it is our own personal choice, because our government cannot be there every now and then to police markers. So we need to take responsibility. And that's why President Kenyatta put it on us that it is now in your hands. Decide your own fate. Walk knowing that this virus is there. And CS Mutahi Kagwe keeps telling us that the key to handling this coronavirus lies with us. So we need to exercise responsibility and make sure that we are doing whatever it is to flatten the curve.
And speaking of which, and the honesty in US and all that, then the question is that there are numerous countries that are headed for an election this year. Sri Lanka just conducted theirs the other day, and it's a trying moment for the United States and all these other countries that are headed for an election as it stands. What are the likelihoods that they are able to run, free and fair elections, smooth elections for that matter, despite the fact that the likes of the US are mature democracies at this time when the world is at standstill courtesy of COVID-19. And speaking of which, this story that has been captured in Reuters is that China is targeting US election infrastructure with cyber attacks. This is according to O'Brien. Well, the war between China and the US is at another level. But even before we delve deep into that or even talk about that, what are the likelihoods that these countries are able to, conduct these historic elections in a free and fair manner to award their people justice? Is there need to, for instance, push these elections to later dates?
No, I do not foresee a possibility of pushing elections. Let me use the example of the United States. They are supposed to go into elections later on this year. So, and that is going to happen. As you can see, campaigns are heating up. But again, now differently, because normally in the past, people could come out, go into gatherings, the candidates are addressing supporters. But you see right now, gatherings are a breeding ground for the spread of the virus. Now, different methods of campaign now swing into action. And, this is what we call new normal. So, yes, so pushing elections will just mean deferring a constitutional process that is due. Because again,
is that a polite way to say that, well, maybe it was necessary actually that we have our students going out there and do their examinations?
Well, what I've held as my opinion is we could have managed Form 4 and Class 8 students. And I've been talking to a number of head teachers and just getting their opinion as to, could you have handled candidates only? And the feedback I was getting was, we can handle candidates, because now social distancing would have been achieved, and they are maybe the senior most in school, so getting instructions would be very easy, and handling and managing them could have been achieved. So maybe we needed to look at, can we handle our candidates? But again, the question is, many of these candidates are spread across the country. So the modalities of transporting them from wherever they are to their respective institutions was the question. Because now, let's say a candidate has a school in Western Kenya and they're coming all the way from Mombasa. So between Mombasa and Western Kenya, a lot of things could happen in between. And nobody just wants to take the risk of sending these students back to school. So if we said candidates from Vihiga should learn from Vihiga, those from Mombasa should learn from Mombasa. You see, like that way, one has just to think about maybe traveling from Chavakali to Mbale, and they have gone to their school. That way is less riskier, because even a parent can contract somebody specifically, take this my son or daughter to school, you know, or even they can do that by themselves. But again, it's a tricky balance, it's a tricky affair, because you know the virus is unforgiving. You never know where it is. It is invisible, so it is very hard to fight against these things. So our kids' lives do matter as much, and many people are arguing that there is no point risking their lives for the sake of the national exam. But in my opinion, if there was maybe advanced consultations and, you know, like, can we take the risks, and are parents ready to risk, you know, to let their kids go back to school? That's another question. Again, me as a parent, I have to make that decision, given that this is my son, this is my daughter. If I lose this daughter, I don't know where to get another. So we also have to agree with parents that, are they willing? If they're willing, then now we can start to discuss about now what next. But if they are not willing, it becomes hard to carry out the decision. So we'll have to take the bite the bullet, make them stay at home for as long as possible, and then when time is right, they'll go back to school.
Right, and courtesy of COVID-19, sadly, oil prices have shot up, rise by 1% on Saudi Aramco's upbeat demand. And of course, one would look at 1% as something that is very small, but you can be rest assured that this will shake the activities across the global fraternity. I mean, all this time of COVID-19, the prices of oil continue to shoot up, which is pretty much unfortunate. So the oil prices climbed this Monday, supported by Saudi optimism on Asian demand and an Iraqi pledge to deepen supply cuts. Although uncertainty over a deal to show up the U.S. economic recovery capped gains. So it's unfortunate. And when you see that, then as a country, you also wait to see what, of course, the repercussions of the same will be. We'll not delve deep into that, but I have to say thank you so much, Edwin Kigoli, for the great insights and for your time this morning. It is now time that we cross over to a different segment altogether as we expound some more on the politics of the weekend. That is on the current affairs segment. Be sure to be part of this conversation. I'll be telling you how you get to be involved on the same after this short break. Welcome back, and it's time for the current affairs segment. We take a look at the politics of the weekend and that declaration by Murathe and being backed up by Francis Atwoli that Right Honorable Raila Odinga should be the president come 2022, and that they will be out there to back him in the event that he declares that indeed he's going to be on the ballot. Same, we take a look at what we expect tomorrow. That is on the Senate's task to ensure that they're able to deliberate on the way forward for counties in terms of sharing of the 316 billion shillings. And, you know, in this case, sharing this to them equally. Something that has been bringing a lot of uproar for the longest of time. So we get to see whether indeed there's going to be a truce on the impasse as of tomorrow. And we also take a look at the Western politics. I mean, every other weekend, the Western leaders have treated us to so much politics. We ask ourselves, is this time then that they are able to achieve the Mulembe unity, or these are just sheer politics? And what way forward amid the differences that we get to see moving on? And briefly, just take a look at also the InfoTrack report on how happy counties are or how sad respective counties are. And joining me this morning to expand more on the same is the KANU Women Congress, that is Nairobi, Betty Adera, and also Soita Evans Kakasa, who's a lawyer. Edwin, we had him on the previous segment. And ladies and gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
You're well?
I'm fine.
All right, Karibu Sana this morning. I think it's just about the politics of the weekend. The biggest of them all is that declaration by David Murathe that if Raila is on the ballot, then they will be out there, or he will be out there to support Right Honorable Raila Odinga, that it is time that Right Honorable Raila Odinga equally is celebrated and appreciated for the numerous struggles that he's put towards attaining democracy in the country. Is that a polite way of telling us that Raila is going to be on the ballot? And since when did Murathe switch from speaking for the president and now speaking for Right Honorable Raila Odinga, if you'd want to look at it that way, Betty?
Thank you very much, Linda. Quite a weekend of action.
Just hold it right there. I'm not able to get you well. Maybe if they can give me more volume. I can't quite hear you, so it will be hard to engage.
Can you hear me now?
Just a moment, some more. All right, before they fix that, let's first let's have Edwin. Sorry, I don't know why Edwin keeps cropping up on my head now that I already had a session with him. Soita, we come to you. What do you make of that?
As you're aware, when after the handshake, the ruling party, which is the Jubilee Party, informally joined hands with ODM, and meaning that mechanism and even speaking to the public will be done by both parties independently or in conjunction. Mm-hmm. So when you hear David Murathe speaking about Raila being on the ballot 2022, they're preempting the masses to start thinking in those lines. On one end, we really accept that Raila Odinga has been fundamental in this country. Very many rights that we enjoy, he has been at the forefront fighting for them.
Yeah.
About insisting that we should reward him for doing that. It's a matter of opinion. Let's hear what he will say himself. Mm-hmm. But what I believe is doing what is right and standing for fundamental rights and in accordance with the Constitution doesn't mean that you have to be rewarded. That is what those are the goals of a citizen. Yeah. We really appreciate what Raila Odinga has done, and let's see in the coming days how he will respond to that. Mm-hmm. But we know that from the movement that he has been making and the connections that he has been building around himself, it seems that there's a big announcement that is going to come from that end. Thank you.
Are we getting mixed signals in regards to the same, even as you respond, Beatty? Because when you see the likes of Murathe speaking of, a powerful presidency for that matter, is that a polite way of telling us again there are likelihoods that the talks of BBI are going to be shelved for now, or we are going to go for a referendum? And if we go to a referendum or for a referendum, is the presidency that is within that agreement what Right Honorable Raila Odinga would want?
And then his words are augmented by Atwoli, the Secretary General for KOTU, then those are not words that we want to take lightly. But following on the interview that His Right Honorable Prime Minister Raila himself, said on live TV over the weekend, we are hopeful that the BBI conversation is still on, that the building bridges process is still on. Him and His Excellency the President, as the co-principals for the BBI following the handshake, are actually waiting to receive formally, the BBI report anytime soon. And once they do that, then they're going to come back to us as Kenyans and of course present that report to us as well. And then we figure out as a community, how to move forward from there. But now back to Murathe's sentiments, followed by Atwoli. I think they're just setting the stage for people to realize that, hey, while the deputy president has already, said that he wants to run, Raila himself, with his own mouth, we haven't heard him say, that he's going to run. But this is more like preemptive. This is preparing us, for a possible Raila Amolo Odinga presidency, whether it's going to be 1 term, 2 term, whatever time, that's something that we're being prepared for. But it also doesn't mean that any other Kenyan who wants to run, for the president should not do that. Everyone who wants to, has a right to do that. But I think they're just setting the stage for any other contestant to know that, look, if you want to run for this seat, the person to beat then, would be Raila Amolo Odinga. And let's give credit really where it is due. Raila, the Prime Minister, has done a lot, for this country. We owe a lot to him, as a person. We owe a lot to him, in his leadership. He's considered, the father of devolution. He's been very vocal on the front line on the fight against corruption, which has, been a cancer that has plagued us as a people, forever. And then now look at the handshake, and the BBI that will perhaps, give us a new political dispensation towards, a better governance and towards, a better leadership for the country now and going.
Beatty, Soita feels like, it is an unfortunate to take such an angle and assume that just because he was there to fight for, liberation of the country and so much, that it is time to award him. We've seen the likes of, the late president, that is Mandela of South Africa. May his soul rest in peace. Having done so much for the country. But for years, again, they decided to be out of the race just because, he did whatever it is that he felt was right for the country and really did not expect much in terms of, the country coming back again to say thank you. So if we have to take this direction, don't you suppose that there are very many people who've done so much for the country, hence they would come out there, now trying to extend their hand, or asking something from us in the name of, or we have done so much, so it's time that you repay us?
I would want to believe that it is right to give credit where it is due. And this is one of those instances when we're saying that, hey, of course, not disagreeing with the fact that there's so many, people in Kenya, individuals in Kenya who are alive or who have passed on, who have done, tremendous things for this country. But Raila Amolo Odinga is one such person who is alive and living, in the present day Kenya. And if we just want to say that if he could do all this, without occupying that seat, just how much more, would he do, when he actually occupies this particular seat. Now, the context of Kenya and South Africa, in my view, are a little bit different. Kenya got its independence, many decades ahead of South Africa. And while Nelson Mandela is also celebrated not only in South Africa, but in the whole world, as again the father and grandfather and grandmother, of liberation and of independence and of fighting colonialism, there's only a lot, that we can learn from that context. We can learn from Nelson Mandela But I want to believe that there's a lot of, similarities that we can draw from both gentlemen. While Raila was not on the forefront, fighting for independence for this country like Nelson Mandela did, but he took us through a second liberation. He took us through a second, sense of independence when he fought on the front line for Kenyans, to get a new and revised constitution in 2010 that has expanded, the democratic spaces in Kenya. That has made Kenyans, feel free to be more vocal, to share their thoughts, to talk about how they feel, how they like or do not like, leadership at all those levels. And of course, the human rights on the human rights front, there's a lot that we are now protected, within the Constitution 2010, as was spearheaded by Raila Amolo. Of course, not alone with the team, but who was the face of devolution in Kenya? It is Baba, and let's give credit where it's due.
All right, sorry to bring in you again, and just seeking your reactions into this statement. Somebody writes here and says, the old men fronting Raila Odinga know that he has no capacity to beat Deputy President William Ruto. We all know that Ruto has done his homework well and now enjoys over 10 million votes and across the country. So Ruto can only be beaten through vote rigging, and that is the only option left for the Murathes and Atuolis of this nation. This also is an utterance that has been backed. This was actually written by Senator Kipchumba Murkomen at some point in time, and also, backed by numerous people. What do you make of that statement?
First of all, I really want to appreciate what Betty is saying and the comparison that she has offered about Kenya and South Africa.
Yeah.
That is order. And just to speak, I have a lot of respect for Raila Odinga. And he has, as I said earlier, has been very phenomenal in shaping the country the way it is right now. And we cannot take that away from him. And we cannot take away that the benefit that the Kenya populace has received from that. But we have to know that we live in a democratic state. We live in a democratic state, and as he has clearly said, those declarations by Murathe and Atuoli should not bar anybody from or anybody else from seeking the same seat. Now, if I can go in connection with that tweet, we have to understand that we are not, as a country, we are not in the business of rewarding people because of what they've done to us. We're not in that. If we follow that clearly, there are many people who are supposed to get that. I'm not giving any credibility on the person of the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, but I'm saying there is even a commission. There is a presidential award that can deal with that. But to deal with the likes of Murkomen, the way he has said on his tweet previously, and the individual you said, I have not gotten his name. People feel that in as much as we got our independence, we were led by very strong men and women who led the second wave of democracy that we are experiencing and enjoying. Don't you think it's time that we have youthful people, not per se youthful, but another crop of leadership? Remember, it's very wrong to always recycle leaders. They have offered enough. Why can't they give us advisory opinions while other people take the lead? So that's my take about it.
And let me come in. Looking at these strong utterances from other leaders, does it then come in to confirm or to give us a confirmation that it's not always about the vote of the people, but technically about the system, about the deep state that is so certain that if they decide that this is time to award Raila, then that's the direction. That, some of them coming out to say that it's because they know that there's another person who has more numbers, and in the event that this person loses, it will be clearly out of rigging. Is that a polite way of telling us that the vote process is as good as useless, Betty?
Actually, I've read and heard, time and again, the narrative that says that we as Kenyans, we really know how to vote. What we don't know how to do is to count the votes. And I think that speaks to what, you are just saying, this perception, out there that, for instance, Raila has been winning, but his votes, keep get stolen.
Yeah.
Not because people did not vote right, but it's because at the counting process and tallying process into a final really tally, then there's a problem. And I think that is perhaps what led us to one of the darkest moments, in our times and history in Kenya, the 2007, 2008, elections, and then the violence, that followed by. But having said that, I want to believe that we are now in a new political dispensation. Our current constitution is almost heading to 10 years, and this is the time, to look at it and figure out ways in which we can strengthen it. We are all aware as a people that even when it was being promulgated in 2010, it did not mean that everything, in it was agreed upon by everybody. There were some contentious issues in there, and IEBC, is still one of them. But I believe we have 2 years, to go to the next general election, which is 2022. And this is time, now, like all the leaders, the young and the old, the old and the fresh, to come in and look at ways in which we can actually strengthen IEBC. And I'm hopeful that perhaps, within the BBI, provisions, are made for that, so that this institution that is charged with the responsibility of delivering a credible, election that all Kenyans will believe in, finally happens once and for all, so that when you lose, you lose. When you win, you win.
All right, well, that's an interesting one. And then we'd want to talk about the role of President Uhuru Kenyatta in this, and the role of the handshake as it stands right now, and the likelihoods of ensuring that they get to push Right Honorable Raila Odinga for the win. Is that a polite way again of telling us that from the word go, the handshake was squarely not about the aspect of peace, but squarely about, fronting one individual for this? And I'd come to you later on, Betty, to find out. I mean, when you see the likes of Atwoli, who is a diehard of KANU, celebrating and affronting this, or saying that this is actually the direction that they should take, what does it speak to his leader that is in the KANU party? But that aside, first of all, Soita, was the handshake a way of crafting or, creating a path for Right Honorable Raila Odinga officially to get into the presidency?
That's one way of looking at it, especially the opponents of that faction might say that, the handshake is a sham. It is just to entrench dynasties. You remember that talk about dynasties at some point. Then, on the other hand, you remember the situations that led to the handshake. This country was in a very bad place, and we cannot lie that we've not received many gains from the handshake. That is one. And you remember even when, let me talk about electoral laws a little bit. Remember the reducible minimum.
Yeah.
Then it came to be reflected into the BBI. What the BBI tries to achieve is that, first of all, we have to sort out our electoral issue. We have to sort out we have to discard and drastically reduce instances whereby when somebody wins or when somebody loses, they say that I was rigged out. Now, I don't believe per se that the handshake was just to put a stamp on the Raila presidency, but it was first of all to resolve several other issues. And again, to be very clear, Raila has not declared his interest. He has not declared.
Are you sure Raila has not declared? Most of the times when we see the likes of Orengo speaking, we say that Baba has spoken, based on how much they work together and in tandem. And numerous times we've heard Murathe speak, and people have argued that maybe that is just Murathe, but then eventually it happens, and it's clear and evident that maybe he was speaking on behalf of, his leader, that is President Uhuru Kenyatta. So when we say that Baba has not declared it, are we certain that indeed Baba has not declared it?
Baba has not declared it. No. But you see, you can look, as I previously said, you can see from the movements that he's been making. There's you can conclude, you can try to conclude, but circumstantially, and say that yes, he has shown interest in the top seat. But that does not mean that the handshake was meant or was put in place so that they can declare him the running mate.
Yeah. And
as Betty said clearly earlier, we are being preempted. We are being preempted so that we can see, so that the two factions, whereby on one side sits ODM, the other side sits Jubilee, so that they can see the outcome and how the people respond. It's just a matter of strategy. Then we will go to the next phase, as the former Prime Minister himself clearly said, that we are going to the next stage, and which will be execution. We are going to see how people will react on issues of the BBI.
Yeah.
If the BBI goes through, at that moment, we will clearly know that the proponents of the handshake will have a higher hand on choosing who will run for the next, will run the 2022 election.
All right.
And even from the sentiments of Murathe, you saw he said that it's like cleaning the house. They're saying we want to give Baba an opportunity, so that after that, he in fact mentioned a transitional president. After that, now that the new political will have a new political dispensation differently. Yeah.
Okay. All right. There's a view here from Shunza Gitali, who's watching, and he says Murathe was simply enticing Raila and his followers to support the controversial Uhuru method of disbursing revenue, a real political lie. Betty.
Well, in politics, you cannot rule out anything.
Yeah.
But having said that, you can also not take for granted anything, you know. So we have had Atwoli speak, we have had Murathe speak, but we haven't had Baba himself speak. We haven't had the head of state, speak. And remember, again, a narrative that in politics, one day, is a long time. We are almost 2 years, away from the general election in 2022. And I want to believe that a lot, could potentially change between now and that time, especially after, we received this much awaited BBI report. And remember, leadership of a country is not just head of state. It's not just president. There's a lot of leadership space there. There's a lot of leadership opportunities that would house every other faction or individual that is friendly, to the person who actually eventually clinches the seat. And remember, one of the things that are being proposed in the draft BBI report, as we had it, as we read it, as we talked about it, would be the presidency. But then there was also, the position of creating, a position of a prime minister, with the deputies. The president, of course, has deputies. So again, it's a wait and see to see how all that will shape. But for me, what I would just say that while right now we have a stalemate, at the Senate, and the counties are actually crunching, with brokenness and no money, to run services. For me, that would be priority for all leaders to put their effort, to ensure that the senators are talked to. The senators are made to see the wisdom in taking the best decision, for Kenya, so that at least we remove that out of the way. Because remember, we've also had narratives within the revenue allocation conversation that says that if you don't pass this, then we're going to hold on to the BBI. We're not going to support it, and that is a dangerous place, a dangerous place to be. So I want to believe that from the head of state all the way, down to Kenyans, every eye, is on the Senate tomorrow, just to see whether are they going to crack this, or are they going to do again another 8th or 9th, postponement of this conversation. But back to the Murathe Atwoli sentiments. Remember, these are also individuals. These are also Kenyans with full rights, to hold an opinion. They have full rights to endorse whoever, they want to endorse. But it's a matter of, let's wait and see what really happens, how the next few days unfold.
All right. Speaking of which, let's loop in Soita. Should be the 8th moment when, of course, we'll get a different view on the same, where the Senate sits down to deliberate on these issues to do with the county revenue sharing. But before we even get to that, the fact that, there's been these utterances, I know at some point in time, this has, been reported to have left Jubilee members, some of the Jubilee members, at a split. And same applies to, people of ODM who sort of feel like, now their leader is officially making moves that are a little bit confusing for them, in the sense that he is meeting figures who are differently, aligned to matters ODM. And I think we've seen what has been trending. That clip where, of course, there is Peter Kenneth, there's Murathe himself, there is Atwoli himself, there's different figures. So why the confusion? Why do the members sort of feel like, there's some bit of, stuff that they do not really quite get clear? And what does it move by Murathe speak, of course, to the Jubilee members?
As you're aware, in politics, you have to make moves and change strategies each and every time. I like to again make reference to Betty. He says that with the current sentiment and people having their opinions and forming a national narrative, it became clear to Raila Odinga. I believe after the mock inauguration at Uhuru, at the grounds, he changed tactics completely. He said, and that's why you can see the likes of Murathe saying there will be a Mandela moment. Mandela at some point reached out to his foes. And when he was reaching out to his foes, his biggest supporters were against him. You can see what happened with Nasser.
Yeah.
Now, back to the ODM house. Raila knows, and it is well known that he can whip his house into order. Even if you remember the time when he was away in hospital, they were saying that let's wait for Baba. He will come and give us the 1 or 2 matters. So it's a matter of change of strategy and also reaching out to other like-minded people currently because of the current situation. Now, when you see him meeting the likes of Peter Kenneth, he wants to also interact with that side of the voting bloc and bring a consolidation, so that when that decision and the awaited pronunciation that he will make, he will have support from each and every side of the country.
All right, and coming back to KANU, which is also what played out during the weekend. First, a question that I had intended to ask you, now that you are a member of KANU, when you see the likes of diehards Atwoli, the KANU party, shifting focus or looking at this different direction at a time when your own party leader has declared his interest for, presidency come 2022, what does it speak of the members within the KANU party? And also this ditching or these utterances by Joshua Kutuni over the weekend, that if this side does not benefit me, then I'm afraid politics is a game of interest. I will cross over to the other side.
Like I said earlier, and I think this is something that we as now regular Kenyans need to really look at what our leaders are doing and probably, just follow, their example. I mean, it just shows that at the end of the day, one leader, there's the realization that not one person can ever make it. Not one community, can ever clinch the presidency. Not one political party, can ever, clinch the presidency. There's need, therefore, for coalitions of interest. There's need, therefore, for leaders to reach out to each other. And behind the scenes, you and I know that all these leaders at the end of the day have coffee and play together. While we as regular Kenyans take a very hard stand.
We lost Betty on that one. I think it's important that I call upon you to be part of this conversation like I had promised, that of course I'll update you on how best you can interact with us as we try and fix that. 0768 095 491, the numbers to call in the event that you want to be part of this discussion. 22047 is a SMS shortcode. Drop your SMS or your message and I'll be here to go through it as we proceed with the conversation. Hashtag Morning Cafe at Linda_Lela at TV47KA, or you can as well stream live on Facebook TV47, on our YouTube channel or our YouTube handle, that is TV47. Also, as we get to hear your sentiments on the politics of the weekend, so much played out. As we try and fix the audio aspect of it, we're talking about the presidency or the likely presidency of Right Honorable Raila Odinga as declared by the likes of Jubilee Point man, that is David Murathe, and also Atwoli coming out to back his utterances. And as they would always say, when these leaders speak, then you need to listen, or you need to, stop whatever it is that you're doing. Try and listen to what it is that they're saying. His declaration over the weekend is that Right Honorable Raila Odinga should be awarded that aspect of, congratulations, or better yet, message of thanks, or action of thanks, to the numerous ways that, of course, he went ahead to fight for the country's liberation, to fight for the country's democracy, to fight for change in the country. So, according to him, it is time then that we tell him thank you for the efforts that he's put towards this. He's looking at a scenario where we're talking about the coming in of multipartyism, which was hugely spearheaded by him, and the changes that we're witnessing right now as to matters BBI, and also the 2010 constitution conversation that was ongoing. So it's important that we take a short breath. Just a reminder that you'll be part of this discussion, as I have said. 0768 095 the numbers to call. 22047, the SMS short code at Linda_Lela TV47. After this break, we are right back with the guests of the day to wind up on the segment. And apologies for that delay. Betty Adera and Soita Evans are still with me in studio this morning as we discuss the likelihoods of Baba's presidency. And we had so much to discuss, but because of time, I'm afraid we might lock some of these issues outside, but not to worry. And we come back to, that talk that we were having in regards to the differences that are witnessed as it stands right now in these key parties, that is the ODM and the Jubilee Party moving forward. So if we're able to get a hold of Betty, then I would allow her to react to this, even as we take a look at the likelihoods of, them, being in agreement to Atwoli's, backing or backing rather in regards to, him arguing that it's time for Baba. But in the meantime, let's first of all try Soita. I don't know why the system is playing tricks on us, but not to worry because we'll have it sorted as we proceed. Soita, are you there? Well, looks like it's an unfortunate morning for us this day, but also we are grateful for your feedback and also being part of this conversation as we proceed. And maybe I should get advice from Mr. Director on what we should do, or as we keep waiting. Yes, all right, as we keep hoping that they're going to get a hold of them. Different reactions coming to the panelists of the day, or from the panelists of the day. Soita says that it is not fair that we have a conversation where we need to reward leaders who've come out, strongly to address the issues of the country. And according to him, it is important that we now pave way for youthful leadership as opposed to, trying to reward the oldies. They have done what it is that they would have done, but it looks like it is unfortunate that we are having a conversation where we still want to rewind or have the very same oldies on the board. But Betty, on the other hand, says that maybe it is only fair that we give credit where it's due by saying Asante Baba for, fighting towards us getting multi-partyism, liberation, and so much so. And because, yes, the system won't allow us to have this conversation, you need not to worry. We're going to have it some more. That is tomorrow. But we cross over to a different segment altogether on matters nutrition. And we hope to get a hold of the guest of the day so that we get to learn how best we can manage the allergies, how best we can avoid foods that are causing us allergies, or if we have to eat them, then what it is that we should do to ensure that we are safe and they do not affect us in any way after this short break. Welcome back to this discussion. It is time for the lifestyle segment, and today we're all about nutrition. We delve a little bit deep on matters understanding food allergies. Joining us this morning is consultant nutritionist Kefa Nyanumba, who's going to take us through this session as we get to understand some more about allergies. As we proceed, remember that it is important that you be part of this discussion as you get to interact with us. Hashtag Morning Cafe at Linda_Lela at TV47. You can as well stream live on Facebook. That is TV47 and YouTube TV47 as we proceed. I know you have very many questions in regards to the subject of the day. Most of you will know it. I will attest to the fact that, sometimes you take something, before you know it, you probably have pimples. Before you know it, you're having stomach upsets. Before you know it, there's just a reaction in your body that is out of the normal, that gets you feeling uncomfortable. So today we get to know whether indeed allergies are caused by what it is that we eat. And in the event that it's caused by what it is that you eat, what can we do to have to consume the same meals without having to worry about any reactions that will happen? Because sometimes the foods that you're told not to eat because of the allergy are foods that are important to you, especially for the mothers out there. You can attest to the fact that there are times you're told don't feed your baby with eggs, yet you know very well, they have components and nutrients that are very important for the body. So we get to learn how best you can have these meals, or if there's need, then you can proceed to substitute with foods that are going to give you the same nutrients, but without allergies for that matter. We also want to know that, there are some foods that, react with your body in a very good way, probably giving you good stuff, or giving you that glowing skin and good look. We also get to know whether that's an allergy or not. So Kefa Nyanumba, who's the consultant nutritionist and the guest of the day, will be taking us through this session. So we're sending those questions that you would be having for him as we try to get a hold of him to expand some more on understanding this on the way forward, on how you address the allergies that you could be having, courtesy of what it is that you have eaten, how you get to moderate your meals. Sometimes, you are allergic to something, but if you moderate, if you take them in small portions, then maybe the reaction will not be as much or as bad. So Kefa is here to ensure that we get to learn more on this as we get to expound. What are some of the questions that you have? What are some of the foods that you are allergic to? I'll personally tell you my experience. When I take eggs, I tend to have some small pimples on my feet and some on my face. I'm sure you can easily notice that I have some marks or some spots somewhere here. That is courtesy of eggs, and the love that I have for eggs is just out of this world. So sometimes, we're not able to, just run away from the foods that are allergic to us. And as we try to fix our Skype, to get a hold of Kefa, I think it's only fair that we kick off this conversation. We'll start engaging him first via phone as we fix the system to have a clear picture and video of him. I don't know if we have Kefa already on phone.
Hello.
Hello. We have him on phone already. Kefa, good morning.
Morning to you.
Kefa, good morning.
Morning to you, Linda.
Hello.
Yes, morning, Linda.
Morning, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Yes, the systems are acting up, but all the same, the show has to go on. Thank you so much for finding time.
Yes.
What exactly is an allergy?
An allergy is an abnormal reaction by the body's defense mechanism, and this happens when we eat certain foods that are known as allergens. Yes.
This is squarely about the meals that we take, that one would get an allergy, or one can get an allergy based on something else, or having a different substance that comes into contact with their body.
Okay, there are many causes of allergies. Yeah, of course, some people are allergic to certain foods, and I think we are going to talk about them. But there are also people are allergic to dust or cold.
Well, let's talk about foods in particular now that you are a consultant and nutritionist. And are there specific foods that are prone or are well known to, cause lots of allergies to different people?
Yeah, there are a number of foods that are known to cause the allergies. fact, they are called allergens. And then some of these foods include, for example, we have the peanuts, we have milk. Some people actually are allergic to milk. We have eggs. Some people are allergic to wheat products because they contain what you call gluten.
Yeah.
So these are some of the examples of the foods that tend to trigger the allergy.
So what exactly is in a person that would get them being allergic to a certain kind of food? What is this component? What is this aspect that makes Linda allergic to a certain kind of food, and the same food does not cause any allergies to the likes of Nyakundi or anybody else?
Now, it usually depends on our immune system, because at times our immune system actually reacts to certain food, and we end up getting food allergies. Sometimes it can actually result from what you call the digestive disorders. So there are some people react to certain foods because they have digestive disorders. Yeah.
All right. So what are the different presentations of allergic reactions that you would think of or you would speak about this morning?
Now, they can actually range from what you call mild to severe, cases. For instance, there are some people who get itch. The others, who get, swollen lips and tongue. The other people who tend to get, dizziness. Some people actually get feel like vomiting. And at times, severe cases can actually lead to colon unconsciousness. Yeah.
All right. So in this case, let me rush a little bit first. One would want to ask, how do you cure some of these allergies, and for how long should an allergy last? Like, for instance, if today I take eggs and I am allergic to eggs and then I probably get pimples, how long should it take for these pimples to ebb away? There are numerous times I've seen someone allergic. All right. Sorry?
Some people it could actually take, it can actually resolve within a day. But we've also seen cases whereby, the allergies can actually continue for a number of days, especially the severe cases of allergic reaction.
All right. So what does it take to cure some of these allergies? I remember at some point in time, like I said, I have just shared my story right here that I love eggs so much. And for a long time, having taken eggs, initially I never used to have an allergy. But later on, I realized that I started, getting pimples. What could be informing this? That, on the first phase, you do not have an allergy. But over time, as you take this food more and more, you tend to have allergies. What informs this change?
Now, it usually depends on a number of factors.
Yeah.
And, some people take a lot of bad protein. And the proteins actually take more time for digestion.
Yeah.
So if you take excess, usually our body reacts in a way that, it actually tries to stop us from taking the excess because it's trying to protect yourself. And that is why at times the food might affect you. But sometimes it may not affect you. But when you take excess of that specific food, the body starts reacting. It's actually very common, especially with the egg. You've seen a number of people reacting to eggs, especially when taken in excess. Yeah. All
right. And speaking of which, before we even get to the Q&A, you talked about eggs. And on numerous occasions, and I don't know whether this is a myth or is the truth of the matter, we've heard mummies being told, at a very tender age, before your baby starts talking or speaking, kindly do not feed them with eggs, because if you feed them with eggs, then this will alter their patterns of speech. Is it true? Is it a myth? And how then do you ensure that the baby gets these numerous nutrients that come along with eggs at this point if you tend to deny them?
Now, when it comes to children, we are usually keen on the time to introduce certain foods, especially the protein. In fact, there are a number of studies that have actually confirmed what you've asked. So what we need to do is to ensure that we introduce each food at the right time, especially when it comes to the protein, because during childhood, the digestive system of the children is actually a bit weak. So we are supposed to ensure that we don't introduce any food anytime. And that's why we need guidance from professionals for us to know how to introduce the foods. And in case the child reacts to certain foods, then we are supposed to stop some of those foods.
In this case, then the child does not react almost immediately, from what I hear, and
Yes.
it's not like you feed them with eggs at a very tender age. You wait until that time where you start weaning, maybe at age 6, and you're told, well, it's important that the child gets proteins, and you find that eggs are rich in proteins and are easily, foods that you can serve or you can feed the baby in comparison to the meats. So in this case, you do not expect to see the result almost immediately, or the allergies almost immediately. Is it true in any way that it would come in to alter speech?
Now, it actually depends on a number of factors, as I said, but especially for children, what usually happens is sometimes the reaction might not occur at that specific time when you actually introduce the egg. At times it takes a bit of time. But as I said, the most important thing we need to do is for us to understand that proteins take more time for digestion, especially the animal proteins. And what we need to do is to start by introducing, the plant proteins before we introduce the animal protein. Some proteins actually tend to overwork the kidneys, and we know, especially for children, the organs are still developing, and what we need to do is to ensure that we introduce these specific foods at the right time. So what we are saying is that the reaction might not actually occur at that specific time when we introduce these foods, but as we continue with time, the children might actually start reacting to some of these foods, and allergies are becoming very common among children nowadays. Because of the foods that we introduce during the weaning process.
Okay, so how does one get to determine allergies? I mean, just get to know that, yes, I have gotten this, and this could be a reaction to what it is that I took.
Now, to determine that it's an allergy, what you need to do is to observe what we call the symptoms. Remember, I talked about, itchiness. Some people get swollen lips or the tongue. And of course, we also have severe cases, I said, whereby, some people feel unconscious. And if you've discovered that maybe wherever you take certain foods, you start getting some of these symptoms, then you need to ensure that you try to eliminate some of these foods. And of course, in certain cases, you might need to seek medical assistance.
Speaking of seeking medical assistance, then the cure is key. How then do you determine and get the cure to some of these allergies? I remember, before you even tell us of the cure, at some point in time being told that, when you know very well that you're allergic to a certain food, before you take it, or right after you've taken it, kindly go and take a certain, medicine, a certain tablet. For instance, in this case, I was told, be taking Pyritons every other time you're taking eggs or any other food that you're allergic to, because that way it will stop the allergy from, popping out, or from happening, or you will not get the reaction. Is it true?
Now, I would not actually recommend that you take some of these medicines. In fact, we call them antihistamines. Those are the medicines that actually assist when it comes to allergic reaction. Instead of taking them before taking these foods, what you could do is you would get the substitute. And it assists you to get the same nutrients you are supposed to get from these allergens. And the objective is to ensure that we don't get what we call micronutrient deficiency. Because the moment you start avoiding most of the food, then the other danger is actually the risk of getting micronutrient deficiency. But of course, we also have cases whereby you might actually need the medication. But before you go for the medication, you need to first and foremost eliminate the allergen. And then, of course, you can actually get the antihistamine to assist you.
All right. Okay. So when you get to hospital, what are some of the cures to these allergies that we're talking about? And are there occasions when you probably do not seek medical advice, that you get an allergy that would affect you for the rest of time, or allergies are just short term?
Okay, remember I said the symptoms can actually range from mild to severe. For mild cases, once you eliminate the allergen, you can actually get offered some medication, which is actually the antihistamine.
Yeah.
And this should be able to assist to get rid of the reaction. But there are cases whereby we have the severe cases. In fact, we call that anaphylaxis. And this is actually a very dangerous allergic reaction. Whereby sometimes the blood pressure can actually drop. You know, it becomes an issue. And in such cases, you will actually need urgent medical attention. Yeah.
All right. Allergies in relation to expiry dates. Could you tell us something about that?
Okay, you mean expiry of the food?
Yes, expiry dates. Maybe you've taken food that is almost getting to the expiry date or has expired literally. And I think I've seen many people doing this commonly, especially with milk. You know, once it has expired, once it's probably surpassed the days that are supposed to be there, and you tend to switch it from, you know, fresh milk, and you decide that, well, itakuwa maziwa mala officially. And people comfortably take them without fear. So is there a connection between, you know, allergies and, you know, one consuming foods that have already expired?
Now, when you talk about our food intake, we should always ensure that we avoid, you know, taking expired food. You know, our body recognizes food the moment we take it. And once the food is expired, then it becomes a challenge for our body to be able to recognize this food. So that's what actually guides the body in terms of enzyme production. And therefore, when you take expired food, you know, the body might actually perceive it as a harmful substance, and it will trigger the reaction, the allergic reaction.
Yeah.
So yes, it's expired food can also cause some of these reactions, and that's why we need to ensure that we avoid taking expired food. And of course, when it comes to milk, it gets worse because milk contains a type of, you know, protein we call casein, which is actually which takes a lot of time for digestion. Yeah.
One would tell you that sometimes people struggle a lot with allergies. You know, this one thing that you love so much, this one thing that is important for you, this one thing that has been recommended to you by the doctor is the one thing that causes an allergy for you. So would you advise as a nutritionist that once you notice that these kinds of meals give you allergies, you should drop them in totality? Or there's a way that you can advise a person that, you know, you can still have your meals, but, you know, not have the allergies at this time and age?
Now, in fact, there is actually a number of reasons why people tend to like certain food.
Yeah.
And one of them is because of craving. And, you know, craving is actually the way our body tries to strive for nutrients. And because of that, we end up taking too much of certain food, which is actually not good. So when people come to see us as professionals, what we usually do is before we take the elimination route, we try to find out the frequency at which we are taking this food. And in case we find that you are taking them more often, then we start by ensuring that we reduce the frequency. Because as I said at times, you know, the body reacts because we've taken excess, and we are doing that simply because we are trying to ensure that you don't get micronutrient deficiency.
All right, and okay, so
meaning we don't just get rid of them, we try to find out if you've taken excess and you try to control the intake, if that will assist you in terms of, you know, tolerating some of these foods, then you don't have to stop. But in case you still react, then of course we have to eliminate these foods and assist you to get the alternative that will assist you to get the same nutrients that you're supposed to get from this food.
Oh, okay. Now, allergies are on the rise as it stands, and this has been declared. What do you suppose could be informing this rise number of cases or high number of cases? Allergies are on the rise across the global fraternity. What could be informing this rise?
So I'm not getting it.
I'm saying, according to a report or a survey, is that allergies are on the rise as of today across the global fraternity. Then my question would be, what could be informing these high cases of, you know, allergies across the globe. And I mean, is it to say that people are ignorant? Is it to say that people have no idea or are not aware of what is at their disposal in terms of managing the same?
I strongly believe it's because of our change in terms of lifestyle, whereby, you understand that most people have adopted a westernized lifestyle.
Yeah.
That is actually full of calories, but empty in terms of nutrients. And you see the way food is designed in such a way that it comes with what we call the energy and nutrients. So when you take such foods, our body actually perceives it as abnormal food. Of course, it does a reaction. And that is why we need to ensure that we change our lifestyle.
Yeah.
The other cause could be because of the increased cases of digestive disorders. In fact, we are seeing a number of people getting conditions like acidity, heartburn, conditions like gastritis, acid reflux.
Yeah.
And these are some of the conditions that actually tend to increase the risk of getting allergic reactions from our food. Yes.
Okay, well, that's an interesting view right there. But also, there are times when you are allergic to certain foods, but there are people who are allergic to certain types of food groups. For instance, someone is just allergic to proteins, or someone is allergic to carbohydrates, or someone is allergic to foods that contain other nutrients. So the question is, I remember the other day we were having a conversation, and we know this is in the public domain, that it's important for one to have a proper balanced diet. So in such a scenario, when someone is allergic to proteins, how do they get to balance the diet? How do they get to ensure that they do not miss out on the proteins that are crucial for their body?
Now, we know that most people actually are allergic to protein, and the reason is because they take more time for digestion.
Yeah.
And of course, the way we take our proteins can make it worse, because at times our food combination is not right. So when you talk about healthy diet, we are looking at a number of questions, and one of them is how we combine our food.
Yeah.
For example, I think it's a number of people who take more than one protein at the same time. For example, there are people who want to take beef and chicken, at the same time. Of course, that will make that will increase the risk of getting some of these allergic reactions. So therefore, when it comes to protein, what we need to do is simple. We need to begin in terms of the way we combine these proteins. And it also depends on the time we eat our protein. Some proteins actually take more time than others. For example, red meat could take more time from white meat. Therefore, I would prefer that, if we could take it in the course of the day as compared to the evening, the allergic reactions would actually not be worse.
Yeah.
So there are also factors, but that is what we should address as professionals. And that is why when patients come to see us, first and foremost, we're interested in knowing their dietary history. And through that, we're able to guide them to know how to take these foods without getting the allergic reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, and combination of meals, speaking of which, sometimes you're told, it's Christmas, don't overeat. It's Christmas, don't mix lots of foods together. And sometimes people get reactions to this. So in the event that there's plenty to eat, do you know of certain foods that when mixed, when someone takes them together, would cause allergy, would cause reactions for that matter?
It's usually common, especially, if you are combining protein with other foods that take more time for digestion. For example, we know that wheat contains what we call gluten, that takes more time for digestion. So if you are, for example, if you are taking red meat and wheat products like chapati, of course, digestion is likely to get worse. So it takes us back to the way we combine our foods, and we have to know the time it takes actually to digest most of the foods that comprise of our diet.
All right.
Yeah.
That's good right there. And what about kids? There's a scenario where as a mother, you get confused. First of all, to even pinpoint moments when your baby is allergic to something, and even after you realize that they are allergic, then how do you get to ensure that they do not end up, seeking to have these meals that they are allergic to?
Okay, when it comes to children, as I said, the way we introduce foods as 6 months is actually very important. And you're supposed to introduce, for example, one food at a time, so that in case the child reacts, you're able to know some of these allergens.
Yeah.
And what you need to do is to try to eliminate it for some time, and try to reintroduce it again. It's important to know about children. It's the fact that with time they will grow some of these allergic reactions during adulthood.
All right. Is hate of a certain taste an allergy? Like, for instance, maybe I just don't like the way a certain meal or a certain food or a certain fruit tastes. Is that an allergy, or what exactly is this aspect of, not just liking the taste of something?
Okay, you can repeat the question. I didn't get it.
I'm saying this is a very random question and a very funny one, though, but it's important we get to know. There are times that you just don't like the taste of a certain food or a certain fruit, a certain meal. Is that an allergy, or what exactly is that?
I would not call it an allergy, because we know that at times, if you take a certain food for some time, that's for healthy food, your body is supposed to control you from taking excess of that food. And every time you start liking that food, it's just a natural mechanism through which your body actually tries to control the amount of nutrients you get from certain food. I could call it an allergy in case you start getting some of the symptoms I talked about, like the swollen lips, the itchiness, etc.
All right. So, what is the difference between an allergy and intolerance?
Okay. A food intolerance is not that severe compared to a food allergy.
Yeah.
And food intolerance is actually mainly caused by what's called the digestive disorders. But we talk about the food allergy. There's actually the issue of the immune system, so whereby our self-defense mechanism is supposed to protect us, react when we take certain food. So food allergies tend to be severe compared to food intolerance. Yeah.
All right. I told you that at some point in time, I never had an allergy on something, but later on developed an allergy. So are there scenarios where people can outgrow allergies? Say maybe you were allergic to something when you were young, or growing up you've been allergic to something, then boom, all of a sudden the allergy is not there anymore. When you're consuming these meals, there's literally nothing that happens.
Yes, that's actually true. And especially for children, they get allergies to certain foods when they're young, but with time they outgrow some of these allergic reactions, and they're able to take these foods without getting any reactions. And that happens because their digestive system actually develops as they grow. So yes, it's true that we can outgrow some of these allergic reactions.
All right, that's amazing. Now let's talk about cross-reactivity and oral allergy syndrome. Would you expound some more on this?
Now, when it comes to the symptoms of food allergy, the most important thing we need to know is that some of them might be mild and some of them might be severe. Now, for the case of mild allergic reactions, as I said, what you need to do is try to eliminate the food, and you might also get assistance from the over-the-counter medications, the antihistamines.
Right.
Now, for the case of the severe one, like what I call the anaphylaxis. Now, those need urgent medical attention because they tend to make our blood pressure to drop. They interfere with our breathing because they make our airways to constrict, and that's of course dangerous. That's why you need urgent medical attention. Maybe I could give a few tips on what we need to do from the nutrition perspective to address some of these food allergies. And the first thing you need to do is, you need to introduce some of the foods that are known to have what you call the natural and histamine. Like we have the citrus fruits, tomatoes. There are so many other examples of the foods that are known to have what you call the antihistamines, the natural sources.
Yeah.
But also need to ensure that you control your intake of especially animal proteins. Yeah, and of course don't take more than one protein at the same time if you are allergic to some of those proteins. You also need to make sure that you control your products. In fact, A number of people take a lot of these products nowadays.
Yeah.
And for example, the people take bread in the morning, we are taking mandazi at 10, chapati lunchtime. So by the end of the day, we are taking excess. And that, of course, might increase the risk of getting allergic reaction. We also need to ensure that we are working on our metabolism.
Yeah.
And that is why we need to get a number of nutrients that I want to boost our metabolism and, of course, increase a bit of exercise. In fact, studies have also tried to link excess weight gain and allergic reaction. And that is why we also need to be active, because that will also assist us to improve in terms of metabolic rate.
All right, and there's a question here. Must you literally orally consume this food, or once they get into contact with your skin, or contact to probably the smell and all that, can that be reactive as well?
Oh, is that a question?
I'm saying there's a person who was asking, must one, consume these foods for them to get allergies, or sometimes, when they get into contact with your skin or even the smell would get you, having the allergy?
You really don't have to consume it to get an allergy.
Yeah.
To some people, the moment the food comes into contact with the skin, so the body just reacts straight away. And that is why sometimes when we are doing the test, allergic test, allergists actually use what you call the skin test.
Yeah.
So you really don't have to eat this food for you to get the allergic reaction. Just coming into contact with them can trigger the reaction.
All right, same food groups and cross reactivity is what I would want to understand some more. There are times where you are, say, allergic to shrimp. What are the likelihoods of you also being allergic to foods that are in the same food groups? For instance, even vegetables, you could be allergic to kales. What are the likelihoods that you'll be allergic to spinach and cabbages and all that?
Now, you know that we have different food groups. We have the vegetables, we have the proteins and the starches.
Yeah.
Now, interesting to know is the fact that, foods from the same food group sometimes tend to have the same compound. And that is why if you are allergic to one food group, you are likely to get, if you are allergic to one food from a certain food group, you are likely to get an allergic reaction from another food from the same food group. And that is why you need to be careful. But the most important thing is trying to observe the symptoms, because as I said, we cannot really avoid, most of our food, because the moment we do that, then we are at risk of getting what you call micronutrient deficiency.
Yeah.
And that is why we need guidance. They can see a nutritionist, come for a meal plan. Yes.
Okay, what of food allergies and seasons are like? One would tell you, during these cold seasons, I cannot take anything cold. During these cold seasons, I cannot take a soda. But in other seasons, I can comfortably take a soda. During this season, I cannot take this, and this season, I can take this. I mean, what is the connection?
Now, there's one thing that most people don't understand, that our health status actually depends on three factors. The first one is the environment, and of course the mind and the body. I mean, the three are supposed to, dance the same rhythm. Now, our environment affects us in a number of ways. You know that when it's cold, our body changes in terms of metabolism. And that is why sometimes when there is cold, the way we react to certain foods usually changes. Because we are actually part of nature.
Yeah.
So that is why we need to make adjustments when it comes to our food intake or our lifestyle choices. Yes.
All right. Well, okay. Now, an interesting one also right here.
Yeah.
Somebody asks, does cooking in any way reduce the levels of, reactions or reactivity on certain foods to certain people or different people? So maybe if it's an egg, you consume it raw, the reaction will be much more than if you consume it while it's cooked.
That's something that I need to research more about, because I've not read any research that indicates that, when you take cooked foods, then the allergic reactions are likely to be less. So, but it's something interesting that I need to research more about. Yeah.
All right. What about exercise-induced food allergy?
Sorry?
Exercise-induced food allergy.
The exercise-induced food allergy.
Yes.
You mean some of the allergies are introduced by the
exercises, or sometimes actually there are times when you're told that this food would react with you, but you're told have it and then go out there and exercise. So probably it will drain off your body pretty much fast, and maybe the reaction will not be as high.
Good. Then now the question is actually clear, because what we understand is the fact that when we exercise, what usually happens is our metabolic rate usually comes faster.
Yeah.
Which is something that is actually good. We know that when the metabolism slows down, one of the dangers is the fact that most of the body's housekeeping processes then slow down, including the digestion process. So when you exercise, your metabolism rate improves, and that by itself can actually assist your body to be able to handle the allergic reactions.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Food poisoning and allergies, what is the thin line that is there? What is the biggest difference between these two?
Now, food poisoning is actually common, especially among people who take expired food. Remember, we talked about taking expired food. And what you need to know is when you take expired food, what happens is our body perceives this food as an enemy. And it cannot keep quiet. It has to react. It actually reacts by producing certain chemicals, call them histamine.
Yeah.
And it's actually because of this reaction, it's because of this chemical that we get a number of allergic reactions. And interesting to know is the fact that these chemicals affect a number of systems in the body.
Yeah.
The respiratory system, the digestive system, the cardiovascular system, and of course our skin as well.
All right, so the duration in which it takes before one gets this allergy sometimes gets people confused on whether they should conclude that the reactions that they get are allergic reactions or they're just reactions, or maybe it's just a medical condition. Because you'd find that when someone takes something, instantly they get a reaction. Some of them would take 2-3 days. What really brings in these differences in time?
Now, in most cases, especially when it comes to the food allergy or the allergic reactions, when you take certain food, they can actually happen in 1 hour to 2 hours. But still to confirm whether you are allergic to certain food, what you need to do is you would go for a test.
Yeah.
Yeah, and know that we have a number of tests that can assist us to know if we are allergic to food, so that we don't just avoid our food. And maybe we are not allergic to the food that we think we are allergic to.
Yeah.
At times it's because of the combination of the food. Yes.
All right. Are there specific tests that once you march into, a doctor's, or into a hospital, that one would expect when they are being tested for allergies?
Yeah, this test is actually done by the allergist.
Yeah.
And just to give you a few examples, we have the blood test.
Yeah.
We also have what you call the skin test. So we have experts who usually do this test, and they're able to assist us which foods affect us.
Yeah.
We call them the allergens, so that we can be able to eliminate these foods. And with the time, of course, we would try, as I said, by introducing them to see whether our body can be able to tolerate this food.
Or what would determine the best test to take, and which of the tests is faster to determine whether indeed one has an allergy or not?
Okay, number of tests as I said, and I think the first person who should answer that question is the allergist. It's actually a specialist in that line. For us as teacher consultants, we rely on the results we get from the allergist.
Okay. Lastly, as we get to wind up, in this test, are there some that are dangerous based on the level of reaction that one gets?
Sorry, repeat the question.
I'm saying, on the tests that you've mentioned, are there tests that are, a little bit dangerous or not necessary based on the reactions that one gets? For instance, on the skin, for instance, if you are to do a skin test, yet you have had a quite huge, reaction on the same, so does it become dangerous in a way?
Okay. I said that, there's a specialist usually deals with the testing, and there are a number of tests that are usually done.
Mm-hmm.
And most important thing we know is the fact that the specialist is able to determine which test is appropriate.
Yeah.
This can actually depend on the number of factors. So, but I will not be able to comment more because that is not my line. As I said, we rely on the results we get from the specialist.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right. Okay. As we get to wind up, maybe you should give us your last, your parting shots or your advice, of course, to any person who's probably been struggling with allergies as it stands right now.
Okay. Now, I would actually say that when it comes to allergic reactions, we should begin not to avoid, certain food groups.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, I said that. Food allergies are common among people who take a lot of proteins because proteins take more time for digestion. So the objective is not for us to avoid, but trying to find out why we are reacting to certain food. Sometimes it's because of our poor food combination. Sometimes it's because of taking excess of certain food. And let's try to make sure that we interchange our foods, because by doing that, then we ensure that we don't get excess of certain nutrients.
Mm-hmm.
When you take excess of certain nutrients, our body usually tries to protect us by stopping us, and that is why I think we react to some of this food. And that is why it's very important for us to seek professional advice. Come for a visit. You really don't have to be sick, or you don't need to get allergic reactions for you to see a nutritionist.
Yeah.
We know that knowledge is power. And in fact, the Bible says people don't die because of disease, people die because of lack of knowledge. So try to get the right information, so that you really don't have to avoid most of our food, because if you do that, as I said, you get micronutrient deficiencies. In case you get severe forms of allergic reactions, then you need to ensure that you seek professional advice or medical attention as soon as possible, because some of them can be very dangerous. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lastly, medicine and medicinal allergies are. How do you deal with such? Because this is a medicine that has been diagnosed. You've been diagnosed with a certain condition, and this is a medicine that has been prescribed, and you find that you are reacting to the same, or you're getting allergies to the same. Do you seek medical advice instantly, or you keep having the medicine until probably it gets to adjust with the body? And we're talking about allergies, we're talking about reactions that are not as prescribed, or reactions that are not incorporated in what would be the repercussions or the after effects of taking this kind of medicine.
Now, what we need to know is the fact that usually our body communicates, and in case you are taking any medication and the body reacts to that medication, then you need to try and understand what the body is trying to communicate. You don't just continue taking the same medication, because the body is sending a very important signal that things are not going in the right direction. What we need to do is you need to seek professional advice. You need to see a doctor, because we've had cases whereby the medicine can be changed. So you really don't have to keep on taking a certain medication. Your body is reacting to this medication. Yes.
Thank you so much, Kefa Nyanumba, for the great insights this morning. Kefa Nyanumba is a consultant nutritionist, and we were discussing how best you get to understand food allergies. If there is anything that you feel like we've left that would be important to the person who's watching us this morning, Kefa, then it is your time to tell us. If not so, then I guess that is the very note where we're going to wind up the session this morning.
Now, in fact, the last time we talked about the metabolism rate, and it's interesting to know that most of the people nowadays have a very slow rate of metabolism. So one of the reasons is because of excessive weight gain. We know that obesity is becoming a major issue. And for us to address, the food allergies or the allergic reaction to certain foods that are common nowadays, we need to ensure that we work on our rate of metabolism.
Right.
I know last time we talked in detail about metabolism rate, and we need to also ensure that we address the issue of the digestive disorders. I mean, they're becoming very common nowadays. And that is one of the reasons as why a number of people actually get some of these allergic reactions. And important is for us to ensure that we change our lifestyle. I mean, most people are taking, refined food.
Yeah.
That I also are actually not to consume what you call the empty calories, but they're so poor in terms of nutrients. So it all takes us to lifestyle change.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much for the great insights. I'm sure you've picked something that is of importance to you. I won't be going through your messages at this time, in the best interest of time, but I have to say thank you so much. And most of the reactions that are here and the questions, I'll make sure, or I'll purpose to forward them to the consultant nutritionist so that they can get to you and react on the same or give you feedback on the same. Thank you so much for keeping us company right from the start of the session. We can almost guarantee you tomorrow that it's going to be smooth all the same. Amid all this, we've sailed through, and we say thank you so much to you, Kefa, as we cross this session this morning, and looking forward to see you again tomorrow, same time, same place. My name is Linda Alela. We have still so much coming ahead on TV47, so keep it locked.
Thanks, Linda.